have a client who had a 12-year-old daughter, and she sent me this text and said, tell me what I can do for my daughter. She's crying all the time. She's emotional. We are into winter. It's very cold in Utah. Seasonal affective disorder is a real thing here. And so how about if you give her a capsule of the 5-HTP? 5-HTP is positive mind, tryptophan, positive sleep, DLPA, happy, GABA, chill, and tyrosine is energy booster. And I said, so give her some 5-HTP. So I get a text the very next morning, and she's like, holy bleep, bleep, bleep. That stuff is amazing. She said, I gave them to my daughter, and within a half hour, she came back and she was smiling and she was laughing. And she said, that stuff is incredible.
Welcome to Power Up Recovery with Nutrition. It is time to make nutrition part of the conversation. I'm your host, Christina Veselak, and I'm so glad you're here. Did you know that it's our brain's job to allow us to cope with stress gracefully? But to do that, it needs to be fed optimally. Have you ever wondered why so many committed people relapse or maybe even die? Why so many people on psychotropic medication still feel lousy and still have cravings? What if the missing piece is food, the right food? What if the right nutrients like amino acids or even eating protein every 4 hours could actually balance your brain chemistry and your mood without medication and support lasting recovery? In this podcast, we explore the powerful connection between feeding your brain well, mental health, relapse, and recovery from addiction. We will share insights from experts, inspiring recovery stories, and practical strategies you can use today. Whether you're in recovery, a healthcare professional, or someone passionate about emotional well being, this show is for you. Let's dive in and discover how fueling your body and brain with the right food, the right amino acids, and other key nutrients can fuel your transformation today. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Power Up Recovery with Nutrition, where we talk with scientists and researchers, with ordinary people sharing their amazing recovery stories using nutrition and practitioners in the field. Today, I am delighted to have Dr. Shelly Jo Wahlstrom on our show again. I interviewed her a while back about her amazing story of how she discovered the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition, learned everything I had to teach her, used it to help her daughter and family members out of addiction, and then created quite an amazing career for herself. And it's that career that we're going to be focusing on today because this could be you. Welcome, Shelly.
Hi, Christina. It's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me and letting me come and share what this journey has looked like since 2017 when I met you.
Pretty amazing, isn't it, for both of us, actually?
Oh, absolutely. It has been an incredible journey of going from not knowing anything about the brain, amino acids, nutrition, and to where I am now. It is incredible.
So, I really want to focus today on amino acids, kind of what they are, what they do, and how you became created your own amino acid business.
I would love to share that. If you watched my last podcast, you know that I got into this because I'm a mom. My daughter was struggling with an addiction to meth, and I didn't have answers. And I did the only thing I could do, and that was pray. And it led me to you, Christina. And it was a world, I mean, I didn't understand the world of addiction, let alone a world of what was going on that kept somebody from going or staying into that cycle. Because my mind was, she would, I mean, she went to jail 4 times and all these processes in her life. And she'd say, Mom, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stay clean. And I believed her and I believed that she believed it. So then when I'd watch her,
She did believe it. She just
yeah,
didn't know how to make it happen.
And she just white knuckle it, right? I'm gonna stay clean, I'm gonna stay clean. And I realized that just because she wasn't using didn't mean she felt good. And so she'd relapse and end up in jail. And after the fourth time, I thought, what is it about addiction I don't understand? Why can't you just stop using? And I did the only thing I could do, and that was pray. I said, God, give me an answer. What is it I don't understand? And it was through that process that I found you. And I take your class, and it was just like my mind was opened, and I I couldn't get enough of this information. It was so incredible that why wasn't this mainstream? Why don't people know about amino acids?
Mm-mm.
It's such a simple concept, yet, we say it's the best kept secret because
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many people don't know about it. And when I did, I got so excited because I thought, well, first of all, I got angry. Why didn't I know this when my daughter was struggling with anxiety at age
Mm-hmm.
6? Maybe, of course, we can't backtrack, but had she known this at 6 and I'd gotten her brain being fed at 6, maybe she wouldn't have turned to drugs and alcohol at 15.
Yes. Yes.
And that's when I ran with it. I thought I want to help the mom who has a child that is struggling at age 6, or the teenager who is so addicted to their phones and all their self-confidence and stuff seems coming from whatever's coming on social media, and they're not thriving, they're afraid of life.
They're afraid of life. Shelly Jo, I'm reminded of two students I had several years ago, both of whom had 5-year-old daughters starting kindergarten who
Mhm.
had pyroluria and other brain imbalances. And, the dads were just thinking these were misbehaving kids. The moms had a feeling something deeper was going on. And we got them tested for pyroluria, we got them on supplements. And these two little girls who were on track to be on psych meds, one of them was being quite violent and in kindergarten at age 5. And think about what would have happened. I think it almost every day. It's part of why I do what I do. Is if these two little girls had not gotten the help they needed at age 5, their entire families would have been destroyed. Their lives would have been destroyed. They were sitting ducks for being on psych meds and then street drugs and then prison. And now both little girls are thriving.
That's
And
amazing.
therefore, so are their families and their siblings. Because, of course, the bad ripples out and the good ripples out. Anyway, go
Absolutely.
on.
Absolutely. And that's why it was so important to me to get this information out. At the same time, I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist. And I would have those clients come and they wanted to make the change, and I'd work with them. It was a great session. Then they come back and it was like I hadn't done anything. And I thought, okay, that's weird. So I'd work with them again and they come back and I call it 51st dates because I'm like, why, what is not sticking? And not having a clue about anything, something that said, there's got to be a chemical missing that is not allowing them
That's right.
to
Make real
stick,
change.
to make
Yeah.
changes, right? So then I went to your class, and I was so excited to learn the information. I learned it for myself because I struggled with sugar addictions. And I remember being so excited, thinking, please make this work. Please make this work. And we talked about the first one we talked about was tyrosine, and how tyrosine helps with energy, drive, focus. Um, I remember showing up at the class and exhausted, which I was most of the time. And I had a pocket full of candy, which I also had most of the time. And, when you talked about how, sugar causes you to spike and crash because that does it. Well, I don't know that mine ever did because I never was without candy. It was always in my pocket.
Yeah.
Um, and you taught us about how tyrosine helps to feed the dopamine, and that, what we're doing is actually raising the dopamine. We're not putting a band-aid on it. We're not trying to mask or
We're not
anything.
tweaking it the way meds do.
Right. We're just literally feeding the brain what the brain is missing. And I was like, that's so cool. And I remember you giving us some tyrosine, um, and saying, okay, go from 0, I feel your best, to 10, you feel your worst. Where are you? And I remember sitting in the class at 11 o'clock going, I'm so tired. All I want is a Diet Coke, some good of plenties, and a nap. And thinking, how am I going to get through this whole day when I just really was struggling? And I took one, and then 15 minutes later, you said, now, how do you feel? And I remember going from like a 10 to, is this really working? Is this not really working? I'm not sure. I think it's working. It was like that placebo effect that you talk about that, you may, it's so subtle, but you're like, something's different. So I took one more, and 15 minutes later, my craving for sugar was gone and I had energy. And I'm thinking, what is this? I remember taking 2 of them home to my daughter. And at that time, she was struggling, had no energy. She was taking several medications that were keeping her asleep, keeping her from using, but keeping her so she had no energy. And I said to her, and her name's Angeli. I said, okay, Ange, I want you to take I have these 2 capsules, and hopefully it can give you some little energy. Take one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And when I get home, let me know how you feel. And I just kept my fingers crossed. Please, please work. Well, I got home the next day from the class, and I said, how'd you feel? She said, I felt jittery. And I thought, oh no, that means that she's too sensitive. And the next morning we woke up and she said, Mom, can I have some more of those energy pills you just gave me? And I said, well, you said that they made you jittery. She's like, well, that's because I took 2 of them at the same time with 3 cups of coffee. I'm like, well, okay. And I laughed because I'm thinking, okay, for her, if one is good, 2 or 3 is better. But it gave me hope. And I went back to class that day and I asked you, I said, okay, I think there's something here. Can I hurt somebody or can I kill somebody? And you said no. And I said, great. And I ran with it.
And you sure did run with it. To the point where you started your own line of supplements. So, can you tell us about how that happened and kind of, the ins and outs of manufacturing and making it happen?
Oh, I would love to. Um,
Because I never did. I just sort of said, okay, that's just way too much work. We'll let somebody else do that. But you went and ran with it.
I did. So it was after the class. The class that I attended was in 2017. December of 2017, I was telling anybody that would listen to me. And I had a friend who, um, her name is, she owns an energy healing conference. She puts them on all over the place. And I saw her at a concert, and she's got this big double coned ice cream. And I went up to her, and her name's Tammy. I was like, Tammy, guess what I've been doing? And she's like, what? I said, I've been learning how I can help people to get off sugar cravings. Now, I didn't see the ice cream as a problem. I was just excited. But she went, oh, as she's eating her ice cream, I want to learn more. I said, great. So we made an appointment. And I'm going over the what she needs, and we get to the point where I'm telling her which amino acids she needs. And that was when, back in the dark ages when the internet, when Amazon just started. It seemed like so long ago. And I said, okay, go to Amazon or the health food store and buy these amino acids. And she says, just tell me what I need. And I said, well, you need this one and this one and this one. And she's like, no, I don't want to have to look them up. Just tell me what I need. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, send me a link. And I'm like, I don't know what a link is. And she said, it's that little thing in the corner. And I said, Tammy, I don't know what you're talking about. It was all so new to me. And she's like, why are you sending everybody to Amazon and the health food store? Why don't you have your own amino acid line. And I went, well, I don't know. Who does that? And then I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. Why don't I have it? First of
Mhm.
all, I remember when I first started, I would have clients that came to me and I would say, okay, this is what you need. Go to the health food store, go to however you want to, get these amino acids. And then I'd call them a week later and I'd say, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, I haven't ordered them yet. And I'm like, so you just spent all this time with me and I can't even get you to order them. The other thing was I thought, okay, I I don't know what I'm telling them to get. I don't know anything about all of the supplements on Amazon or on
Mhm.
at the health food store. How do I even know that they're good? They're good quality. And I thought if I'm going to be telling people to buy something, I want to make sure that they are getting the very best that I can get. And um, that's what led me down that journey is how how do you tell somebody, well, there's so many of these products and so many supplements, and not all supplements are created equally, Christina,
Right?
right? And I've learned so much about manufacturing. I started doing my own research because there are white labeling companies and things like that you can stick a sticker on, a label on, but you still don't know what's in there. You're still only getting what they're telling you. And I thought, you know what? I wanted to research. I
Hmm.
want to know, are they clean? So it was important to me that they were made locally, which they are. They're made in Utah. Um, it was important that they're non-GMO, that they are gluten-free because there's so many people who struggle with gluten-free, that they're vegetarian, that they're vegan, that they don't have fillers, and that they're 100% natural. And I found it. I was telling a lady I knew, and I said, "This is what I want. I'm looking for a manufacturer because the problem is I I would reach out to some of these manufacturers, and the price that they were charging me was more than I could buy them on Amazon. And I thought, well, that's not going to work. And so she said, I think I have a friend that I can send you to, and he was a manufacturer. And I sat down with him. I said, this is what's important to me. Those things have got to be top of the line. I want to make sure that these products do what they say they do. And it's been an interesting process. For example,
Oh, what year was that, Shelly?
that was in 2018. So,
Okay. Didn't
yeah,
take you long.
no. So I met my friend in 2017. She invited me to go speak at a conference in Arizona in January or February 2018. And somebody again said to me, you should have your own product line. And I came home and it happened so fast. So that was February. By March, I had found my manufacturer, and I remember paying him at the time $15,000. And my husband was so mad at me because I'm buying something I was just hoping
Right?
that it would be good, that it would be what I wanted. And funny thing is, I was speaking again at a conference in April, and my manufacturer said to me, um, they'll be done because I'm thinking I'm putting all this money out there. I want them there at the conference so that I can share them. I'd put up all this money on a credit card and I thought I'm just going by faith that these are going to be amazing. Well, April came and they weren't done. And now I'm heartbroken because I'm like, how do I go and I don't have my product. And my manufacturer said, well, pre-sell them. And I said, what? He said, pre-sell them. And I said, people are going to buy them without even seeing them? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, okay, I'll trust you. So I had to make me a nice design, had a picture of them. They are beautiful. If you can see, they're uh,
Hmm.
they're beautiful products.
They are
And
beautiful.
I went and I spoke. Actually, you and I spoke the week before. I don't know if you remember. And we were talking about how I was doing this and how I was reaching out to other hypnotherapists because I thought this was really cool. I could that that this is available. And you said to me, you have a niche that if you could get all the bunch of hypnotherapists to also use them, then you could help a lot more people. And I was like, and you said to me, don't be surprised if somebody says to you, can I wholesale these? I'm like, huh, nobody's going to say that. Who's going to say that? And I went to the conference and I spoke and people bought them. Christina, they bought them pre-sold. I was blown away. I was so excited because they also were looking for help,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
right. And so then two people come up to me and they said, well, if I backtrack a little bit, um, how I found you is because I was watching. Yeah, there's a guy named Part who is a consumer reporter, and they were doing a story on how they were using amino acids in rehab programs. And at the time, they were doing it through IVs. So they
Hmm.
were doing specific amino acids through IVs, and the results were remarkable. After 3 days, the cravings started to go away. After 10 days, they were almost completely gone. And I thought, that's my answer. But it was $1,000 a day. And I'm like, can I have a different answer, please? and that's when my idea was, well, maybe I can just give my daughter supplements. I didn't know anything about it, but I'll just go to the store, buy a whole bunch of supplements, and maybe it'll take a little longer to feel better, but at least, maybe a month she could start to feel better. I didn't know it. And my son a lot of the time was in nursing, and I said, okay, I'm going to the store, I'm going to buy all these amino acids and tell me what to give her. And he's like, you can't just throw amino acids at people, you need to understand them. And I went, okay, that's probably a really good idea. So, fast forward back to my first conference I was speaking at with the amino acids, and this couple came up to me, and they had gone that route. So they had saw the same consumer report that I had, and they had gone the IV way, and it was so expensive, and they just said we couldn't sustain it. So we've been looking for products that we could add to our program. Can you teach us how to use amino acids? Can we be your wholesaler? And that's when I laughed because I'm like, no way. That's just what Christina said. And it was happening.
Uh-huh.
And I got my products in June. And that's what started the ball rolling is I became committed to getting this information out and getting these into the hands of those who are struggling. I talk about that. I said supplements are not all the same. And I have a couple of tips or points that kind of give you the understanding. Well, first of all, when I first had them made, I didn't understand what flow agents were. And
Mm,
I was just
right.
going by the recommendations of the manufacturer. So we were using magnesium stearate. Um, and I didn't think anything of it until I was speaking at another event and somebody came up to me and said, oh, you have magnesium stearate in these. I cannot use these. And I said, why? Why? They said, because I'm very sensitive to it. And I went to my manufacturer. I was like, what is magnesium stearate? They're like, oh, it's just a flow agent. Because to get the product, the raw material to go through the machines, you got to have something to help it to go through.
So it doesn't stick.
It
Yeah.
doesn't stick. And I said, well, I don't want, if there are people that can't have magnesium stearate, I don't want it, because what it does is it coats your body and it can cause a sensitivity to it, which can make it so that people
Mhm.
become sick. And he said, well, it's such a small amount, it doesn't matter. And I said, well, wait a minute. The problem is if you have somebody who's on a whole bunch of supplements and they all have magnesium stearate in it, yeah, one little capsule may not make a difference. But when you have it every single day, right, then you're getting a good amount of
It's
magnesium
building up.
stearate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said, I don't want it anymore. I don't know what I want, but I don't want that. And he said, so he kind of went through a bunch of different things. And now my product has it's called ascorbic palmitate in it, which is a fat soluble vitamin C. Because I thought, well, even if it's a small amount of people that can't take them because of it, I don't want it.
Right. Right.
Right. And that's what was important to me. The other, go
So
ahead.
there's some companies that have what microcellulose in it as a flow agent.
Mhm.
And I think that concerns me a little bit too, because we can't digest cellulose.
Right. Yeah. And again, they'll say, well, it's just such a small amount. But when you're taking it over and over and over,
Uh-huh.
different product, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating. Um, One of the other things that I came across is I used to do the tablets. So they were a chewable tablet. And the first time they made it, it was so good. Oh, it was delicious. But it seemed like each time they made it, it tasted different. And so it wasn't consistent.
Hmm.
And so I thought, well, I don't want this because GABA is a flavor that it's hard to mask. And so you either with the caps with the tablet, it was easy to have either a taste at the beginning that was kind of like this is weird, or an aftertaste. And so I thought, okay, if you can't be consistent, then I want something else. I created a capsule GABA for so I could have it for those who didn't want flavorings. And then I thought, okay, that was when gummies first came out, and now
Hmm.
everybody's on the gummy bandwagon, right? I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool? I'll do gummies, and that way they can just chew them and it'll be wonderful. Well, I went to 4 different manufacturers and I said, okay, this is what I want. I want a gummy with at least 125 milligrams, 250 preferably, because that's what the capsules were and that's what the tablets were, but at least 125. Well, each one of them came back and said the most you can get is 45 milligrams per gummy. I said, that can't be true because I went on Amazon and I bought some and they had 500 milligrams per gummy. They said, it's not true. I said, well, that's what it says on the bottle. Well, as you know, that the supplements are not regulated. So if they say there's 500 milligrams, it could mean 500 milligrams in the whole bottle, not 500 milligrams per gummy, because they use so much of the gel or whatever it is to encapsulate the
Right.
GABA,
Right.
that 45 milligrams is nothing. But I thought, well, okay, so there's an example of a consumer thinking they're getting one thing and they're not. And then they're wondering why they don't feel good. Why are they not working? And I mean, I'm not putting down other supplement companies. I'm just saying that that is reality. My tryptophan, for example, is very pure. And I had a couple clients that they used other supplements, other tryptophan, and they're like, it didn't work. And then they bought mine and they're like, what is the difference? Why do yours work and mine don't? And I found out that there was a supplement company that it wasn't 100% of tryptophan.
Mm-hmm.
It had, I think it was only 96% because it added that flow agent in it, and they were adding the flow agent as the other 4% of the tryptophan to get 100%. And those are just things that I realized. And my thought is if I can make a product that does what it says it's going to do, that is the quality, then it can make a difference.
Right, right. And that's what we want.
Right.
You know, it's interesting. I was having a conversation a couple of days ago with a very conventional PhD registered dietitian who was spouting the party line that you can't ever trust supplements because all supplement companies are just out to make money and they're completely unregulated by the FDA. And so, you know, you never ever know what you're getting. Um, which is And I said, you can't to her. I said, you can't say that.
Right.
You can say much of the time,
Yeah.
many supplement companies are just out for the money. And, you know, what's on the label isn't what's in the product. I said, but you can't say it to about every company because there are practitioners who depend upon product that works. I
Absolutely.
said, so in the FDA may not be regulating these supplement companies, but the practitioners are regulating the supplement companies that they know and trust and only recommend supplement companies that they know and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is one reason why I wanted to interview this part of your story on our podcast is to talk specifically about that and how there are some supplement companies who really are ethical and really do care about what's in their product.
Oh, absolutely. And there are. And there's um
And you're not the
and
only one, but
no,
you're a good
absolutely not.
example.
Right. Absolutely. That they make a difference. And if they are what they say they are, then you're going to get the results that you're wanting. You're going to help to
Mhm.
feed the brain. Um, and that's what we want is we're feeding the brain. I call it brain food.
Yeah,
You're feeding the brain what the brain is missing for whatever reason. Your body isn't, you're not getting enough of them, or they're, your brain's malnourished. Whatever that reason is, these actually feed the brain what the brain is missing. And that's why we do what we do.
that's exactly why we do what we do. So you ended up with a powder form of GABA.
I did.
Like
I
a
did.
little bottle. See,
Little bottle. Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
had a little bottle.
We got twinners. Yay. Yep. Yeah, but chill. And it is so fun. When I was creating this one, because I decided, okay, let's do a powder. Um, when I was growing up, my mom would give us Jello in a box.
Right.
And we'd open up and stick your finger in it and you put it in your mouth, right? And it was like it was heavenly.
Uh,
Um, and I wanted that same, I wanted the powder to be partly like that, like it was a like a nostalgic,
treat.
yeah, a treat, yes. And so I it tastes like a lemon lime pixie stick is what it tastes like.
Okay.
And when I was creating this, I also wanted to have the flavoring and the taste, and not necessarily taste, but a lot of what I was using
Okay.
before, I was, yep, yeah,
Hey, Shelly Jo. Okay. It does taste like that old Jello.
I know, like a lemon lime, isn't it?
It sure does. Good.
Good, isn't it?
That's more.
I love that, Christina. Thank you. Um, my tablets had xylitol and sorbitol in it, which
Hmm.
are sugar alcohols. And a lot of people have a hard time with sugar alcohols.
Yeah.
So when I made this one, I thought I kept looking at all the different ideas, and my thought was, um, I want to use something that I know that most people can handle.
Hmm.
So it does have an organic sugar in it, and it has stevia. That's the flavoring, um,
Hmm.
because most people can handle that. And it
Yeah,
has
it's not too bad actually. I usually don't like anything with stevia in it, but I think because you also have this tiny bit of cane sugar, it balances out the stevia, so it doesn't taste bad.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. But that's why I went
And
with it that way.
I hate things with monk fruit in them.
You do.
I just like hate it. Yeah.
Mhm. So that's why it has that flavoring, and that's what, and I call it a um, magic pixie dust, because it doesn't have to. There's no capsule. You take a scoop, you put it in your mouth, you let it sit there um, for 45 seconds. I mean, you don't have to. It just makes it so
That's
that
so it can absorb through your mouth.
yep,
Yeah.
put it in your mouth, and then you swallow it, and the results are very, very quick. That you can just feel yourself starting to calm down. I've added, we've got the GABA, it's got some theanine, inositol, and tyrine in there, um, which helps keep it from converting too much to glutamate too quickly. So it helps it so that uh, it does what it needs to do. It helps to, the GABA feeds the GABA, which helps to calm the body
Hmm.
transmitter.
Nice.
Hmm.
So we've got a little bit of time left. Can we have some stories?
Oh, I would love stories. I had one of my practitioners or somebody who had bought some. She hadn't used it before, and I said, here, try all these and see how they work with your clients. And she sent me back that she had a client that was struggling, who had lost, and just was it was such a hard time that she couldn't. It was just very, very devastating. And she gave her the GABA chill powder, and that was the first time in weeks that she actually started to feel a little bit like herself again. And that was so heartwarming. Now, one of my favorite stories is I have a client who had a 12-year-old daughter. And she sent me this text and said, "Tell me what I can do for my daughter. She's crying all the time. She's emotional. I can't, I don't know how to help her." And it was in December, it was in winter. And I said, "Well, we are into winter. It's very cold in Utah. Seasonal affective disorder is a real thing here. And so, how about if you give her a capsule of the 5-HTP?" And I called my products. They each have a subtitle. So, like 5-HTP is positive mind, tryptophan, positive sleep, DLPA, happy, GABA, chill, glutamine is craving be gone, and tyrosine is energy booster. So that when they look at them, they don't go, "Oh, I don't know what this is for." It tells them on the bottle. And I said, "So give her some 5-HTP and give her some GABA. I mean, no, not GABA, DLPA, to help with the emotional, and she just was really sad. So I get a text the very next morning, and she's like, "Holy bleep bleep bleep! That stuff is amazing." She said, "I gave them to my daughter, and within a half hour, she came back and she was smiling and she was laughing, and she said that stuff is incredible." And that was fun.
How fun. And again, this is a child. So you just changed the trajectory of that child's life
Mm-hmm.
and that family's life right there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. There's
Uh,
your daughter at age 6 or whatever, right?
there you go. Yep, at age 6, yes. And they work great with children.
Mhm.
Um, if a parent comes to me and they're like, my child, can't isn't focusing, um, or and they're or I remember when my daughter was 6 and she always had a tummy ache, and I'm like, and they were like at terrible times, the day before Christmas or the first day of school, and I'm like, and why do you always get sick, like right before these great events? Well, it was that for her, it was her feeling of anxiety because, when you feeling uptight,
Yeah.
overstressed, like not your stomach. And I've had several clients where they've given their children the 5-HTP and the GABA, sent them to school, and the teacher has contacted the parents and said, "What did you do different?" They're calmer, they're happy, they're focusing, um, and the parents are thinking, "Wow, this is amazing," which is the same thing I felt when I learned about them.
Right.
This is amazing. When you feed the brain what the brain is missing, it makes a big difference.
Well, it sure is. Now, you also have a customer who's doing research with amino acids.
I do. I have a wholesaler. I met her in Las Vegas last year at a conference, and she is a health practitioner in Kentucky.
Hmm.
And she got so excited about it, um, because they do testing. Somehow they test the blood of what the person is actually low in. So it's not just, I'm going to randomly give this to you and see if it works. There, she has the data. And so based on what this test shows, those are the amino acids that she gives them. And the data has been phenomenal because she'd been using the test before I met her, but she didn't have the amino acids to add to
Right.
her to give them. And she's run with them. I mean, it's been so fun to see the amount of people. So I'm in Utah and she's in Kentucky. So together we're creating this span across the United States and sharing this with people who otherwise wouldn't know about
Well, how many customers have you had?
it. Okay. Okay. Now this isn't the amount of people. This is the places that people have purchased from.
Okay, so you've got little pins in the
I've
map
got
all
little
over the
pins,
place.
yep,
Yeah.
all over the place. So I have clients that have been in every state in the United States. That was fun
Okay.
when I saw that.
Utah is somewhat highly represented
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah, you can, yeah, obviously, obviously. Um, I've sold over at this point 40,000 bottles
Mm.
all across the United States. I've had clients in Canada, um, Australia. I
Ooh.
have a wholesaler in Australia, New Zealand, and Honduras. So
Okay, well, you have a wholesaler in New Zealand and Australia?
she's in Australia. No, no, wait, sorry.
Australia.
She's in New Zealand.
Okay, so if you could send that information,
Okay.
because I have students in Australia and New Zealand who have difficulty getting a hold of good amino acids. So that's amazing to know.
Yeah, I'll get her that information. So has gone from 2017 for
40,000, you said.
40,000 people. Yep, in 10 years. 9 years, actually. Well, no,
9 years.
8 years. Because I got them in 2018.
Congratulations, Shelly Jo. That's
Thank,
amazing. Think
thank
of
you.
all those people who have been helped, are being helped, and the ripple effect in their families and communities.
Yep. Because of you, Christina. Because I met you. Actually, God had a
It's
plan.
like you, I just won't keep my mouth shut.
It has been an amazing journey. And now I have people who are affiliates who have fallen in love with them, and they share, they can have a link, and they share it with their friends and their families, and they get some, either they can choose to either get a discount back, or they can get some a kickback. I also have wholesalers
Mhm.
that are using them in their practice, because I'm a hypnotherapist and I use the brain, body, and emotion, three-legged stool. So the modality can be different, but the brain and body is the same, whether
Right.
it's hypnotherapy, energy healing, chiropractic, whatever that looks like.
And so, you and I had a conversation a week or so ago, and I realized that for whatever reason, I was not selling your product on the Academy website. And I think it just hadn't occurred to me. So that's now changed. So we
Yes.
are now offering your product through the Academy.
Thank you, Christina. And
Well,
because of that,
thank you.
your students can also now sign up to become wholesalers
Yeah.
and get the discounts and share it with their practitioners, which is just a win-win for all of us.
It's a win-win for all of us, which is why everybody listening, I wanted to have Shelly Jo on this show so that you could see what can be done just as an individual person, but also how to make it win-win for yourself, your practice, as well as your clients.
It's been a great adventure, Christina. I never would have dreamed that when I met you, it was in
You
November.
walked into that class.
I
Yeah.
walked in that class, not having a clue. I'm a mom. You had practitioners there, you had doctors there, you had nurses, and I am looking for answers for my daughter, thinking, what am I doing here?
And now you have a PhD.
I do. Yep. I did that too.
Quite remarkable. So if people want to reach out to you directly, how do they do that?
They can go to my website, which is hypnoaminos.com. I'm known as Amino Acid Lady. You can email me at shellyjo@hypnoaminos.com and reach out to me. You can get a hold of me. You can give me a call, and I'll leave my phone number. You can put it on here with it, Christina. And however I can help, I am. Yes, I. I'm very passionate about sharing this with as many people or anybody that will listen to me.
Me too. But you've gone in a direction that I could not even have dreamt of going. I just teach, but you're running with it. So more power to you, Shelly Jo. All right. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode. And if you enjoyed it or found it useful, please push the like button and the subscribe button and share it with the whole entire world. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Recovery with Nutrition. I'm Christina Veselak, your host, and I hope today's episode has inspired and equipped you with new insights and tools to support your recovery journey or practice. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who could benefit from the knowledge shared here. Stay connected with us for more episodes filled with practical advice, expert wisdom, and inspiring recovery stories. Remember, nutrition is a powerful tool in mental health and relapse prevention. Power up your recovery today. I'm Christina Veselak, and I'll see you next time.